We welcome you all, especially our venerable guest speaker, Venerable Dr. Somaloka Thero. And especially today we have Venerable Yogavachara Rahula Hamduru in our panel. And Bhante Sutadhara will lead this program. And our Secretary of United Sangha Council, Venerable Geshe, is here, and Venerable Nan, Losan Tendrul also would lead the meditation, and Bhante Kamalasiri will lead Vandana, paying homage to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Then, yes, now again I welcome you all for this program, Dhamma and Dharma. We have been discussing on meditation last several times. So now today we are going to talk about and listen about Zen meditation and other things may be discussed. So I cordially welcome you all again. Thank you. Venerable Kamalasiri would start with paying homage. Please unmute your mic, Venerable Kamalasiri.
Okay. You're muted. I don't know.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhancha dhammancha sanghancha vandhami. Buddham jivita paryantam saranam gacchami. Yecha buddha atitacha, yecha buddha anagata, pacchuppannacha ye buddha, ahang vandami sabbada. All my life I go for refuge to the awakened one, to all the awakened one of the past, to all the awakened yet to be, to all the awakened that now are. My worship forward faithfully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now the meditation part, right?
Yeah. Venerable Nan Tendrul.
Okay. So for the meditation, I chose a few sayings from a book. It's a collection of writings by 4 Zen masters. So I thought this would be sort of a good segue for the main discussion later. So the book is called Zen Under the Gun. It's translation by J.C. Cleary. Hung Tran said, "Before the world was given form, there was no such name as Buddha, no such name as sentient being. As soon as the world is reified, then all these names are there. Though all these names exist, they're just provisional false names, which never had any real meaning. So do not accept them as absolutes. There is nothing to be concerned about. Take care. Hung Chuan said, consider the four great elements: earth, water, fire, and air. A moment free of doubt, and earth cannot obstruct you. A moment free of desire, and water cannot drown you. A moment free of anger, and fire cannot burn you. A moment free of joy, and air cannot blow you around. If you are like this, then you are an independent person of the path who relies on nothing. Enlightenment is born from relying on nothing, from independence. If you awaken to relying on nothing, then enlightenment too is without attainment. Hung Chuan said, to go from human to Buddha, this is clinging due to holy sentiments. To go from human to hell, this is clinging due to profane sentiments. When sentiments of profane and holy are both purified away, humans are Buddhas, and Buddhas are humans. To think that there are sentient beings without Buddha nature, or insentient things with Buddha nature, these are false views. Hung Chuan said, once forms and images are born, sorrow and joy immediately follow. Once forms and images are extinct, how could there be sorrow and joy? You must observe both birth and extinction. This is the basic source of all the Buddhas, and it is the illusory transformation experienced by sentient beings. Hung Chuan picked up the staff and said, light and dark, form and void, all are illusory transformations. Shu Xian said, fundamentally, birth is not birth, and death is not death. Birth, death, going, coming. A bubble pops, a bubble arises. Thus it is said, all compounded phenomena are like dreams, like illusions, like bubbles, like reflections, like dew, like lightning. You should view things like this. And then finally, invoking Buddha is nothing but invoking inherent mind. Your own inherent mind is Buddha. Don't seek elsewhere. Right before our eyes, even the forest trees and ponds express the sound of the Dharma day and night. Thank you.
Now it is time for our main speech. Thank you, Venerable, for the beautiful quotations in terms of meditation. Today, your Venerable members of the Mahasangha and our friends in the Dhamma, our topic is Introduction to Zen Meditation Practice. We have a very well-known speaker who has been well-known in different areas of study, but deep down, always compassion and wisdom are the basis in his practice. Venerable Dr. Somaloka, he renounced the lay life in his very young age, and then as a Buddhist monk, he was a seeker of the meditation practice, and also he went not only practicing Theravada meditation methods, and also he got his Zen training in, as I remember, he shared with me, this Obaku Zen tradition. And also he founded Australian Buddhist Vihara in Blue Mountain, Sydney area in Australia. And that was in 1972. It was the first Buddhist Vihara there. Then also he has been a meditation teacher for a long time, and also he studied acupuncture and then became an acupuncture doctor and a counseling psychologist, a homeopath. And in all these areas, he has, the main thing is that helping others in compassion. And also he wrote, one of his publications is that Mindfulness and Psychotherapy, a Buddhist Perspective, published by Buddhist Research Society in Singapore. And then also he has been teaching Dhamma in USA, also in Malaysia, Singapore, in Australia, besides Australia. And without going further, I would like to invite Most Venerable Dr. Somaloka to deliver his talk. Thank you. Unmute Bante. Please unmute Bante.
Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Buddhoham Bodhisami Muktoham Muche Pare Tinnoham Taraisami Sansaro Mahabhaya. I'm already, my heart is pumping very fast. I'm not used to talk to screen, okay? But because Master Suddhara forced me to do this. I'm sure you must be familiar with saying that it's only a fool who would dare to tread on the path that has been treaded by angels. I'm one of them. if I had a little bit of insight, I would not be sitting here and talk to a group of people like you. So what we're going to do, I will keep on babbling. So you have to be patient with me. From the very start, I tell you, you're not going to get anything out of this talk. But I would like you to get the benefit of just sitting there. One thing you can do, if I were you, what I would do, I just sit and watch my own reaction. Okay, that gives me the chance to keep on babbling. The reason, as you know, I don't know what is going to come through me. But only thing I pray, everything will be okay. Okay, having said that, I want to make a little bit of an apology or confession. Even though I have been following or associating with the Buddhism, I don't think I had much interest in it. I just studied teachings, just for the sake of teaching. But one day, I just happened to read or reread the little Gatha that really hit me like a thunderlight. Gatha was that Neidang at katam bimbang, Neidam para katangang, Hetu paticha sambhutang, Hetu bhanga nirujjati. He said this body made of just particle, construct. It come into being due to certain conditions. As the condition change, so do the form. Then I was thinking a little bit this Gatha. Then to my own surprise and fortunate, I read another simple Gatha. It says, very interesting. Puttamati, dhanamati, itibalo vihanyati. Attahi attanonati, kuto putta, kuto dhanam. I see this is very interesting. After reading the Gatha, talking about myself, it says that who is this fool? He can't even hold on to his own body, but he keeps on trying to run after all sorts of other things. It really shocked me, So I was that fool. I'm just going also direction and not knowing where I was going, who am I and what I'm looking for. And so it's ever since I'm still running after that. It's like Angulimala Hadru, When Angulimala met the Buddha, he said, monk, you just running. And Buddha tell Angulimala, it's not, I'm not running, you're the one running. And I said, God, I'm also like that, running. Not knowing where I was going. So what is this? In my reading, I find even Buddha, Aneka jati sansarang sandavisang anibisang gakarakang bhavesatana. He was also looking for, because we know what we have been doing, accumulating this and that. But who is this fool that running and building? We don't know. If we can catch him, that'll be great. Right? This is what the whole spiritual tradition, the way I see it, try to catch this fool. Like Hinduism, it's called pratyahara. They said if you can control your senses, then you could stop that running. But in Theravada, Buddhism, that won't work because there's nothing wrong with our senses. So running after, we have to catch one who is running through those senses. And one of the techniques that we Buddhist practitioners do, if we can understand the reality of things that we are after, seeing their construct, and doesn't matter how far the nature of constructed things is such, that in reality, we can't really get hold of it. We are not. It's a paradox. So what are we, if we are not really attached, what are we going to stop? What will be detached? When I think about that, God, we see it's not that we are really attached, but we're struggling. Upadana. It's like try to climb up the slippery pole. This is the predicament of human situation. One hand, we can't really be attached to anything. On the other hand, we can't stop struggling either. Either way, our human situation is very helpless, hopeless. This is what I think our Buddha also did. He tried everything. He followed the Kama-Sukalkana Yoga, the most preferable path that we all do, hope we will be able to happy and find the meaning in our life through sensory gratification. And he, having had the best of opportunity or luxury to enjoy the senses, he realized conclusively that is not the way. Then he go to other path, that I call sensory deprivation, try to attain something, higher happiness or meaning in life through sensory deprivation. And having practiced that to the best of his ability and capacity, he realized that also does not work. So both paths that are available to us with the real life through direct experience does not lead us anywhere. Imagine that situation. What a hopeless situation that would be. So with that sense, he was sitting under the Bodhi tree and contemplating. Actually, a few years ago, to Buddha Gaya and sitting under the Bodhi tree, so close to it, I was asking, almost 2 weeks, I was asking this question. Please tell me what you were thinking under this tree. I can see you lost the both track, sensory gratification, as well as the Atthakilmatthana Yoga, but you couldn't find out. So what were you doing? What are you thinking? Please tell me. Then I start to feel that if I put myself into this situation, what would I feel? Like being in the crossroad, nowhere to go. Study Dhamma, everything, nothing helped. If we can really see that, it's not really, if all those props, help us to cross this samsara, then I think we come to that situation, our local the party, when everything's dropped, when there's nothing to hold on to. That sheer emptiness, and that is the aloko light. Because everything is gone, and there's a pure awareness, I thought, wow, that's very interesting. So I have been trying to experiment with that, And then we look at our same teaching. I thought, this is exactly what they said. Don't study, don't follow the scriptures. Throw everything. Just empty yourself, void yourself. And if everything gone, see what is left. It's a very frightening to feel the emptiness because our mind can't really stay there. But unfortunately or fortunately, that is where the source of happiness and both are there. Like Buddha said, Dhammatam bhikkhave kalebarasha, everything. Samsara and Nibbana are right within in this fathom-sized body. If that is true, where else to look except our own within? This may be what the whole gift of the Buddhist traditions, particularly Zen and Theravada meditation, Vipassana, to enable it, how to get our attention to this being who is trying to run away from it. Because the nature, because we are so afraid, we are conditioned to believe that the way we are, what we are, is nothing. We had to make something of it. Even Viktor Frankl said that a man is not born with the program, purpose in life. We had to make that purpose. That's very true, no? There's all this Sakkaya Ditthi. That's why we try to do. When you look at ourselves, there's nothing there. If you look at our own body and we starting to compare with others and what we have, what we educated, and all those things become more and more what we are collecting. The more we collect those things, we get in the trouble of comparing with others. So that comparison ultimately leads to nothing but developing or reinforcing the very insecurity. Worst of it is the sense of inferiority. Just recently, I think one of the scientists, Elizabeth Blackburn, who found out the telomere thing that in chromosome, said that one of the factors that shorten the telomere is a biomarker we can predict by looking at that person lifespan, diseases, whatnot, and I don't want to go into that. She found out one of the factors that affect negatively or causing the telomere shortening is the sense of inferiority. Then I realized, God, who hasn't, at least from this point of view, this whole atta or sakkaya ditthi that we try to create is nothing but in reinforcing this sense of inferiority, self. So we are biologically also vulnerable. And this all comes back to the point that I tried to talk about, this talk of self-awareness. And Buddha said in the Satipatthana Sutta, because if everything is right within samsara and nibbana right within, that is where we need to look into it by reading books, experimenting with other external things not going to get us anywhere. Because the whole reality is right within. So we had to, in fact, a big battle against our basic nature. Nature is the whole struggling to go after to create a sense of who we are, find the meaning for our existence and whatnot, happiness, everything. But by going outside, we can't get that because they are just a props. what we try to do, those external means, is to activate what is right within. If that is the case, then we have to, the secret lies, focus in learning how to focus within. And fortunately, the Buddha had discovered that we do have that faculty, sati, mindfulness, Buddha said. But the way I see the satipatthana is satipatthana is not necessarily foundation. It is awakening mindfulness, sati indriya. He said then sati indriya, when it is there, we know. When it's not there, we know that also. But we can't just talk that way about the ordinary consciousness, because if you are conscious, we know. But if you are not conscious, we can't say, I know I'm not conscious. But with regard to mindfulness, sati, Buddha said we can. That means extra faculty, sati indriya, that we need to awaken within. The Zen, Theravada, Vipassana, both, I think we are struggling for that. No? Stopping, of course, we have to learn things. Like if we want to look at the moon, we need some time to also pointing, because without the finger pointed, we don't know where to look. But unfortunately, we end up with just keeping looking at the fingers rather than the moon. This is what happened when you learn so many things. Even Dhamma could be a hindrance. In the Anagadam Sutta, I think Buddha said, no, that we need Kuluma Sutta, that we had to drop even the raft we make, however important the raft may be. Once we cross that, we had to drop it. But what about if we still haven't crossed, then we start with that. So this is our situation. We keep on learning and this and that, hoping this will teaching help us. But unfortunately, sooner or later that we had to leave it behind and face to the reality where it is. That is right within. But that is not, from my own point of view anyway, it's not an easy task. Easy to talk about it. From the psychological point of view, to look at or look within our human body is not an easy thing. Because the first encounter, like in the Satipatthana, they say, is not very pleasant. Reality. Atti masmin kaya kesa loma. If you look at this body just a construct, the impression and the feeling we are going to get is not very pleasant. We have to be honest about that. That is why every time when you look into it, we try to fix it rather than looking at it. But somehow or other, we had to go through it. Because if it is there in this phantom-sized body, we need to negotiate with it. We had to come to some sort of friendly acceptance of that. But that one of the hindrances, that we use our body to satisfy something, our ego or self-image, try to say. Because if I'm my body, then naturally I look the way I look at it in relation to others. That's a simple biological factor. We can't see anything without relating to something. Once you relate that to something, it leads comparison. And as I said before, that comparison is the root of, which inevitably it ending feeling sense of inferiority. So those are the problems that stuck or stay hinder our looking within. But somehow or other, as Buddha said, we had to appreciate this body. Dullabhancha manusattama, that's a Dhamma help us. Because the way we look at the body is like a means for gratification, to build up something. It's not itself. We don't like to appreciate our body as what it is, but what it can do for us. If it helps us to achieve what we want, we will respect it. But inevitably, we know that sooner or later, when the bodily capacities are declining, go down, while our desires are growing, we end up feeling this negative correlation there. So eventually we end up with disliking body. We can't help that. If we're working on that mode of view of reality, it won't be like that. We have to look at, end up seeing the body as a hindrance, because nature of the body as it is keep on getting older, and that's something I know very well directly in my own life. It is going to interfere with what I would like to do and achieve. But if we going to, if the happiness or nibbana and all right within us, we have to surrender those other desires and to see what is really in this fathom-sized body. That is what the Buddha told us. We have to look within. But then if we can somehow or other through help with the Dhamma, like the Buddha said, Dullabancha Manusattam, Dullapa, very, it's not easy to assume human body. Sometimes I ask people just to look at the different, what is the most distinct character of a human being compared to animal? Some people say it's intelligence and mind, but the first thing is we have a human body. This body is extremely important. Buddha said that if you want to become even a Buddha, we can't become Buddha by becoming a heavenly being. So there's a tremendous veneration, appreciation of having this body. If our vijnana is not affected by anything, it doesn't matter whether you're in hell or wherever. But why we're struggling to come to human realms, there's some reason. Human realm is assuming this human body. Even the Deva body, even though it may be very beautiful and whatnot, it has no capacity to awaken us. So this Buddha nature, or the bodhicitta that our beautiful sister said, are right is within Buddha nature. So we have to somehow or other learn to go through it, as I said earlier, we have to create a healthy relationship with our body and to use it what it is most suitable for, designed for, that is self-realization. And those people like Buddha who had followed that path and his disciples, they have realized that it is possible. But to do that, we had to really give up something. To finish this talk, I think I like to remind you very interesting accusation many people made of Buddha, even in his whole lifetime. They said he's a family, he's a destroyer of family. He destroyed people's happiness, killjoy. And interesting that Buddha never answered that question, except to my understanding, in one place in the Mahagandha Sutta, Buddha acknowledged that. Buddha said, yes, I am destroyer of world, destroy the family. The world I'm destroying is the world you have created. The world that we have created through our senses and through the sankharas. Taking the sakkaya, taking the body as a reference point, collecting everything like this material world. Trying to find the happiness through sensory gratification. If that is the world, you think real, I am going to do it, because that is not the real world. And he showed us the way, if you give up a little bit, then you realize that giving up not going to end up nothing. That very state of being, of detachment, has its own alluring pleasure And that pleasure is far more superior to even a heavenly being. Amanusi Ratiho, very interesting. Rati said this pleasure of detachment far more superior, far more alluring than the even heavenly pleasure. There are so many cases Buddha and his disciples said that. But then to get the glimpse of that happiness, of detachment, so we had to give something we know only reality. And this is where I think human paradox. How can we give up something that for something we don't know? And paradox is, unless we give up, we can't see that. So it's a paradox. So Buddhism, particularly Zen Buddhism, we all try to deal with this paradox. It looks like this time is up, I think, now, no? Master Siddhara, looks like the time is okay, no?
Yes, Venerable. Thank you for the great explanation about it is more like a synthesis of both. No? But we would like to then invite now Venerable Bhante Yogavachara Rahula to ask some questions from our Venerable speaker.
Oh boy. I don't think I could answer anybody's question. Maybe friendly discussion.
Yeah.
Bhante,
First of all,
I have heard so much about you, but I never met you before.
Same Layla.
I heard of you a lot.
One time, many years ago, maybe 50 years ago. I'm not sure exactly when, but I remember
I can't
from
hear you.
someplace. Anyway, I enjoyed your presentation.
Sound is not clear. I'm sorry.
Sound is not clear.
No, not clear. Maybe I don't hear well.
No. I think, well, yes, there is some unclearness.
Yeah, I can hear you. When Master Siddhara, I can hear you. But I can't hear Bhante Rahula Hamduro well.
I don't know. Can anybody else hear me out there?
So
Can
maybe it's
anybody
not
hear me?
clear.
Now I think it's getting better now.
It's getting better?
Yeah, it was getting better.
Okay, well, I don't know what is the problem, but so let me know if it's getting better, the sound.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a hearing problem, I think. I don't know.
No. Actually, there is
There's some problem.
I don't have my tech assistant with me.
No. Maybe our internet doesn't want to.
Because in the beginning, you could understand what I was saying, right? When we started the program, I was talking with you.
No.
I'd like to ask Venerable Somavika about the comparison between Zen and the Theravada approach, which he had mentioned. Zen, they don't include so much study and scriptures and getting caught up in concepts. And the approaches to meditation are trying to.
It's not clear. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Actually, it's not clear enough, Venerable.
Venerable,
louder.
can you put it into the chat box, Venerable, just by writing?
Oh,
Yeah, that may be better idea. Never mind. Next time when we meet, we can talk about that. I think.
okay, I'm very sorry. I don't
I
know what
would
was the
love to
problem.
meet you soon.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It would take too long to type it in the checkbox, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
please, but can you please just type it onto chat box while while we give a few minutes for you to write the question. I would like to ask something about that. How was your experience in Japanese Zen Zen temple?
My personal experience, I would never recommend anyone to go through that.
Please share with us. I remember you shared with me.
I don't want to go through the experiences that not very pleasant. I mean, torturing, but I like to talk about what I gain out of that here. I learned one thing, that is the importance of sitting without thinking, reading, listening to Dhamma talk, just being with yourself. I thought that creating that environment was very good. That is what I did in Australia. You know, after the first initial introductory Dhamma meditation thing, for 10 days we don't talk about it, but we sit quite a lot. That I still do, because as you know, what is here and now, we can't experience through thinking. Thinking very well designed for past and future, no? Not to see what is here and now. In fact, thinking interfere. So I respect the same tradition for anything, better than anything else, just creating, giving that environment for us to just to sit and drop the, I mean, how long you can keep on sitting like that, and sooner or later we realize the thinking is not going to get us anywhere. Yeah. And that emptiness is very good, I think. It's frightening, but it's very good. But actually, my personal experience is not just what those vadas are. Finally, we need to face, look within, no? Because that is where the reality, this is what I think the most distinct feature of Buddhism. Because everything boils down to within, because Buddhism believes samsara and nibbana, as I said, right within. It's not something outside. So whatever technique that may help us to pay attention to ourselves, I think that's, I really respect that, yeah.
So,
Okay.
Bhante Somaloka already gave, when Somaloka, that Bhante Rao typed the question. Can you,
I could, can you show me, please?
oh, you can open it from your, oh, I can read it.
Yeah, Bhante, it is better, Bhante Sutala.
Yeah, better you read.
Okay, let
read it.
Venerable
As I said,
Somaloka.
you know, I'm not a technical person. I don't know how to do these things.
Well, let me read it. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Venerable Somaloka, would you agree that the Vipassana method of following the 4 foundations of mindfulness and especially developing the 7 factors of enlightenment with the insight knowledges would lead to the same supreme emptiness as they profess in Zen?
It's a very profound question, but ultimately, isn't it the whole Theravada tradition that Saptavishti was doing ultimately to empty our mind, isn't it? Chitta, Sekagata, Vimokta, all those trying to tell us, I think, emptying the mind, isn't it?
Mhm.
Tunyagara, Pavitasa, Sandachitas, Bhikkhuna, Amarusi, Ratihoti, Tadi Sangat, all what I try to say, no? It's emptying the mind, is what ultimately. Emptying the mind doesn't mean it's emptying. Once the mind is clear, like ultimately Vipassana mean, to see Yatha Bhuta Jnana Darsana, to see things as they are. To do that, of course, naturally we had to stop thinking or importing our own conditioning into that. Ditteva dittamattang, no? If you can see things as they are without our own interpretation, coloring, and that is what the ultimate reality is. When we see the reality, we know there's nothing to, we don't need to attach things. We are part of the reality. If we are part of the reality, like ultimately what the Buddha said, why we need to hold on to? The fear that wanting to hold on to get attached based on the fear that we are not part of it. So that is why it doesn't work, because we are basically part of reality. And when you try to do something, it's a superimposed, unnecessary struggle. And that is why it never works. So we have to surrender. No? I don't know whether that would answer Bhante's question. It definitely, yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm not authority to talk about this thing. I like to say there's no much difference between any tradition of the Buddhist tradition. If I remember correctly, even the Thumpo Rinpoche said that so-called Vajrayana, or even before that, both that, there's called Sambhala. If I remember, I don't know, it's my memory. The Sambhala is nothing but pure mindfulness. Pure mindfulness is ultimately emptying the mind of all conditioning so that the reality shines on its own. That pure mind is a pabhasaram, is the light is shown, we will see what is there. We don't need to think about it. We don't have to create reality. Reality is beautiful. Otherwise, why Buddha say Nibbana Paramansukam? Nibbana is a detachment. He said when you detach, we hit the highest happiness. You're right. That is very true, Bhante. Yeah. Whatever the tradition we follow, yes, we empty the mind. Yeah.
I think Venerable Sutra, Bhante Rahul again send another message.
Okay. Yes. Well, this is the response given by Bhante Rahul. The practice of Vipassana, we also empty the mind of all concepts and sense of self.
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
Yes.
Always to see the reality, have empty our mind. If that laid dust on eye, that will go into color, taint the stimuli. Don't see it, we have to clean our lenses as well as
well, both great Dhamma minds agree, right?
Thank you.
Well, I would like to open up this for all our fellow Dhammafarers. Please raise your question. We have some more few minutes, right?
How long we have got?
It's we do have another 30 minutes, right? Whenever.
Oh, maybe what should we do? Maybe meditate, I think, about this fool rumbling about love.
And
No. Bhante, Dhammaloka, yes.
yes, Venerable, if you could let us know any simple method that we can practice emptying our mind in daily basis.
Maybe a koan.
Go on.
You know, yeah, the easiest one what I say, Sabbe Dhamma Nalang Abhinimissaya. So this is what I muttering all the time. When I look at my own body or external thing, I see they're all construct. Doesn't matter in what form, in what function. They, of course, reality manifests in different form, but basically they're all nothing but construct of basic elements. So I always look at that, and that way, that the effect they have on me get less. It's not to deny those are real, but in what form they come and go, it did not make no difference to reality. Whether things are beautiful or ugly, they're just different forms. Whether they are important or not important, it's what we think. It is our mind that tries to superimpose our own value projection. And if you can separate that and accept that's okay, that is what we are, but because we are not, our mind is not empty. Every time we look at something, we just bring our own stuff. It's not the external thing. We are just projecting our own thing. Then we take responsibility for it. It's actually, this is what we in our clinical psychotherapy we try to do. It's not to deny the external world, but to get in touch with what is coming through us, because that is a very healing process. If somebody accuses or abuses us or whatever, in reality it does make no difference. But the difference is our reaction, because we put some value. So if we can separate that mind for a while from the external world, I think it's very good. The other, the simplest thing I'm telling people, just whenever you're being disturbed, just watch your breath. You know, just focus attention onto the breathing. Because the worst thing the problem can do is interfere with breathing, no? And then it will go on. So if you want to survive under the stress, just watch your breath so that it won't stop. And that will work like a magic.
Thank you, Venerable. That actually, I remember that sometime back, you taught us for a very newcomer, very simple way of along the same lines. I branded it as S33. That you said that first you take 3 long deep breaths, breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth. 3 breaths. And after that, to count it from 1 to 10, the 10 breaths, and then 10 to 1 and 1 to 10.
Yep, that is, I still recommend to people who come to see me. Yeah. That's a
Can you explain it? Not in my words. Please tell.
No, you put it exactly what I was talking. Yeah. Because when you breathe out the mouth, as Venerable Rahul knows very well, it cleans our lungs, no? And make our body more relaxed, I think, when you get more oxygen and things like that. And that helps us to bring our attention to our breathing. And when you breathe in and breathe out, and the power, the importance of counting is that, I don't know whether you agree with this, it balanced our right and left hemisphere. Because thinking more to do with the right part, the counting, the mathematical thing, help us calm down the left side of the brain. So thinking and the counting really can balance the brain, I think, left and right hemisphere. So when you do that, that will prepare your mind to be more relaxed. And the other thing that Ante Dhammalokhamdro asked, one thing I really these days telling people, just be kind to yourself, because our body in a big state of fear. Sansara roga mahabhaya. That's very true, but today more than ever I think realize. No? So we Arama Ruka Chaitani monks be running everywhere because of the fear. And our body in a tremendous fear these days because of corona, uncertainty. Even this morning I was counseling a couple of people, this is not very pleasant. So how to release that fear is very, very important. And that our human body is a tremendous in fear. So try them to be more kind and to be with the body. I said, when somebody is in afraid, the best thing we can do, just be close to that being. We don't need to do that. Because I know in my work, when we're in a trouble, the first problem, the most severe problem is the feeling of loneliness. We feel very alone. So this mindfulness, I think, give us that assurance that I'm not alone. Because mindfulness from the Buddhist point of view is very highly recommended. No? Satinjako bhikkhave sabbatikan vadani. It has a very powerful positive effect. So the moment when you're mindful of our body when it's panic, it brings that positive feeling that we're okay. So that one thing I think these days we should, I think, promote more and more. People be kind to themselves, because that's what the Karuna, Taradukhe Sati Hadiyake Janam Janetiti. So when we see another person in stress, we feel that. And then we are in the same situation now. So therefore, we need to bring that compassion or karuna ourselves and say we are okay. You know, and we have Buddha nature that nothing can take that away from us. No? And Theravada Buddhism very beautifully demonstrated through the case of Devadatta Thakur. Even though Devadatta done all the possible heinous karma that nobody could do, even if you want to do now. And Buddha said, don't underestimate. One day he will appear, come back to the samsara and become not like any other human being, even a Pacceka Buddha. So Buddha has given us the uttermost positive attitude to our own being. Okay.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Venerable, again that Bhante Rahula has commented on something. Let me read it. I always begin meditation sessions. I lead with doing deep, slow breathing 6 or 9 times. Then let the breath go naturally, but also count the breaths from 1 to 10 until the mind gets relaxed and aware, centered in the body.
That's really good. So that the more subtle, as I said, technically, the attention has a positive quality. Without that, like if somebody is in very severely depressed, okay, the moment when we become aware of being depressed, that state is no more 100% depressed. Maybe 99, because one part that awareness, very presence of awareness, brings to the element. Even though we don't see that, that is what happened. That awareness has to carry with the compassion also, because we pay attention to somebody because we care about. So the moment when we pay attention to ourselves, we bring that compassion. That's why I think mindfulness, this is one of the questions I like to ask Bhante and the meditation teachers. What is the, because every mental phenomenon has emotional property. So my question is, what is the emotional property of mindfulness? It can't be just empty, just bare observation, because it's a phenomenon. It has to have emotional property. And I think in my personal experience, the emotional property of mindfulness is the compassion. Because when we see things, there we begin to see the immense suffering in us first. So when you see that suffering, it definitely awaken, activate the compassion. Those two can't be separated. If we are mindful, we have a compassion there. If we have to have a compassion, we have to be aware of. Those two are inseparable. I hope it makes sense. Huh?
අය මට මේ දෙකක් විතර කරලා දාලා දෙන්න. මේ දෙක වැඩක් නැහැ දෙකක් හම්බුනේ. කැමරා දෙකක්.
Venerable, actually, that's a very deep insight.
සුවන්ව mic එක off කරන්න.
That emotional property of mindfulness is compassion, right? It is a very and Bhante Rahula mentions joy and lightness are aspects of begins very mindful.
Good. So mindful is not just empty, bare observation. It has a beautiful quality to that. Yeah.
If that the compassion, well, Venerable, another question that the mindful that then when we just talk about mindfulness, people think it is a very technical, and then there is no emotions at all. But that there is emotional property in that way, right?
Yeah. Please forgive me for saying this. That we, at least in the beginning, I didn't understand. Okay, I don't know about others. This pain, we normally take the mindfulness as just paying attention to what is happening. In my observation, even reading Satipatthana, paying attention, like you're paying attention to the four foundations, like it awakened the mindfulness. Then I just recently found out that even John Kabat-Zinn, in his early work, he also talked about the mindfulness as just paying attention. One of the latest introduction he wrote, he said, no, paying attention is to awaken the mindfulness, Sati Indriya. So until we awaken the Sati Indriya, we don't see the full force or power of that. It has that healing capacity on its own. Right? But in the beginning, of course, we had to pay by paying attention to every moment, every thought, every feeling, and we slowly allow the awakening of it. It is there in the dormant state.
It's so are there any other questions or any comments?
May I ask a question from Venerable Somaloka?
Yes, Bhante Saranapala from
Yes.
Canada.
Okay, Venerable Somaloka, it was interesting to listen to you. I was actually paying real attention to what we were saying. One thing that caught my attention was you said you don't recommend anyone to try Zen. You had So I'm just wondering, what was your bitter experience with Zen tradition? This reminds me of a prof I had during my university days. He was a professor of Japanese studies at the University of Toronto. And he himself was practicing Zen. As a Zen monk, he had to get up early in the morning. So one day he was falling asleep. The Zen master came with a bamboo stick and he banged him. And he screams with saying something with F. And all the people, these were Westerners, and they started laughing. And he also said he never encourages anyone to try Zen. So you also saying the same thing. I'm just wondering, what was your bitter experience with Zen?
Actually, I can't say I'm not a Zen monk or any monk, okay? I have no authority to talk about that. And, you know, I'm not a Zen teacher or master or anything. I just had a little bit of experience by seeing. And for me, what is most important is actually to learn to appreciate this life, not what we have external thing. And I find it extremely difficult. If anything for me the same, is trying to, I think, to get in touch with this Nama Rupa, I think. That's how all the rest are just approx, no? We're using different techniques to let go all the other things and to learn to appreciate this very being. But to do that, that's why the Theravada Buddhism is very helpful here for me. To emphasize that everything, samsara and nibbana, right within. That Four Noble Truth, if you look at, dukkha, nirodha, magga, samudaya, all are within. So magga is like going to get us, nibbana also within us. So as Nagarjuna said, that samsara and nirvana are not two separable things, right? All within. Nirvana is in samsara, and samsara is a nirvana. It's awakening like what I call a lotus, buried under the mud, waiting to bloom. No? So the same, whatever tradition we do, to how to gently remove that mud so that this lotus can grow. It is there.
So have you ever had a discussion about your experience with the typical Zen master there? And were you interested in knowing his perspective of what you're saying?
To be frank, you know, I was too obsessed with myself. I didn't look into the Zen master of anyone. So that's my frank observation, you know. Okay. I was very preoccupied here. My aches and pain, you know, being humiliated and all those stuff here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for asking that.
Well,
is that a venerable Saranapala that who teach the meditation and the what they call the police department?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
yes.
Nice to meet you, Bante. I heard a lot about you. I must meet him one day. Yes, it's a great. I feel very blessed. I met you.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
That is why Canada is a peaceful country.
Oh, that's wonderful. Please come and see us one day. Huh?
Yeah, I will. I don't know where you're based in, but I would like to meet you. And
I'm homeless, but I have a little place. Yeah.
In the States?
Sydney.
No, come to Australia.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Australia, that Australian Buddhist Vihara is the first Buddhist center to establish in whole Australia.
Oh, very interesting.
First one.
Yeah.
Now there are so many Buddhist temples. And the most beautiful thing, I like to say this publicly, it's a very unique place in the sense it was built by all Australia, Anglo-Saxon people, no Asian people except my little bit of me. So it's a very
But you don't look like an
historically
Asian
very
either.
significant. It's a very beautiful place, yeah.
Yeah,
And please come and look at
Somaloka,
that.
I have a question related to that. Actually, I had that curiosity. When you build the Blue Mountain Center,
Hmm.
how comes that archaeological idea to you?
You mean, have you seen the temple? Or?
Yes, I have been there.
Oh, you've been to the place.
Sure.
You met the COVID Hamdro, no? Actually, I had the great opportunity. I met one of the architects who worked with Woodson, who designed the Opera House.
Ah,
And he was one of my friends and a student. And he was very well-known architect, influenced by Japanese architecture. Actually, I designed the shrine hall. And then he put in the architectural thing. Yeah.
Oh,
It's like a dream. Yeah.
now I can understand.
Yeah. I'm so happy that you're saying it. Yeah. No, I gave it up to Venerable COVID the 2000 year because it was my prayer. Because when somebody gave me this land, I don't mind telling this now. The first, it gave it as a personal gift, but I didn't want. From my heart, I said one day I want to build a Buddhist temple and offer this to the Buddha for what his teaching has done to me. So I made a very strong resolution by somehow or other I would build that because we didn't have any Buddhists and a bunch of Australians struggled, but it's a very joyful journey. A lot of saddha I saw in those Australians. As you saw, that building speak for them. And then once it's done, I always wanted to hand over to somebody and go away. So that's what the reason I didn't have to let it go at all. It was my prayer. I want to do that. And I'm still happy for it. It's been a blessing to many, many people. Yeah. Good.
That's well, it's a, and then now it's the living monument for it's a very live place, not just empty empty building, right? It is always
it's, as I said, a lot of saddha there. Everybody who contributed had a very beautiful heart here. It's not me, actually, it's them. I was just a little instrument only. Yeah.
So if that's, I think that is a very nice well, part of Venerable Dr. Somaloka, he himself, he doesn't talk those things very much as far as I remember. But personally, he shared with me some of those, but I think it's always just once done, then it is done. Well, I just say goodbye and leave. So that's his nature. Well, by the way, that I would like to invite Venerable Dhammaloka to take over and or maybe Venerable Kamalasiri to do the concluding part. And we have another 6 minutes, right? And thank you.
I think I think if Venerable Dr. Somaloka please guide us maybe 2 or 3 minutes time with some kind of meditation, that would be kind of example for us to practice.
Okay,
Then we
these
can-
days, I will ask small children, big people, everybody, when you get up in the morning, the first thought to say, may I be well and happy. Likewise, may all other living beings be well and happy. I ask them just to repeat that first before just getting up. And likewise, again, before they go to sleep, say the same thing. So the awakening, a little bit of compassion towards ourselves is the most thing. And when things come like Corona, there's, people go to shopping center, they get afraid. I said that don't think this living bacteria, living beings are not living. They're also part of our ecological system. They also have the right to be like anybody else. And I was surprised to hear one of the scientists who working with this epidemic, I think her name is somebody called Fisher, I think, scientist. She said very beautifully, he said, even the bacteria and viruses are living beings. And they are not going to pack up and go easily. The more we fight with them, they also have the same desire to survive. And she's a scientist, not a Buddhist or anything. So I thought, what a beautiful way to say that all sentient beings have the bhavatanha, no? The desire to survive. So we need to negotiate everything. Like in the Ratana Sutta said, Yani debutani samagatani bhumani madhyam. We, Buddha in the sutta, asked them to pray us, bless us. So like us, we need to be a little bit humble and to think that we are part of the system. Please, whoever whose presence are disturbing us, please forgive us whatever mistakes we might be done. Please help us, please bless us. So we also bless you back. If we could do that, I think maybe really good, no?
Yeah.
So to answer simply, when you breathe in and breathe out, that means we are practicing the mindfulness and compassion. And even self-focus, if I'm aware of my own being, and if I'm wishing may I be well and happy, and if I really believe that I am part of the universe, I'm not just only wishing to be well and happy to this being, because this being is inevitably linked with the rest. So if I'm really mindful of this being, that means I'm mindful of through this being whole universe. So my practice is every time when I breathe in and breathe out, I have that feeling that I am breathing with others. Maybe now the time is up, no?
Yeah, thank you very much, Venerable. It makes
Hopefully we will see
yeah.
sometime in
Yeah.
presence.
And also that reminds me, there's a little story saying that a certain demon who lives on hatred, and a certain king of deities, Sakra, went there and spoke with compassion, and this growing up demon came to be a little tiny mouse size and disappeared. So not when attacking to it, but when appreciating and paying compassion to it. I think same thing with the germs and everything also.
Exactly.
As
exactly.
you, yeah. Yeah.
Because we are all living beings, all afraid of each other. That is why we are attacking. If we can remove that fear, giving them the assurance, we are not harming you, how can they harm us? But they harm us, but I'm very sorry to say, we are not such a loving being. We are full of hatred, anger, we have those impurities. So they are afraid of us. So we had to create that harmony, tell that we are not going to harm. And they also afraid. This fear is the issue here. So if you can give that, take that fear away, and I think nothing going to happen. And in fairness to this, I'm going to make one comment. None of you may like it. The only culture, society I have seen who really practice is compassion, the Jaina people. Because under no circumstances they approve harming others. In their theory or practice, there's no such thing. All other tradition, culture, including the Buddhism, we always find some excuse to avoid that. Yeah. Okay. Sorry to say that. This is my personal observation. Okay. And
I think all Buddhist monks and everyone would agree with that.
No, this is my personal observation. Yeah, that's yeah. Because I'm talking more practical point of view. As I said, it's a fear is the one instigate attack. So if it can remove that fear, then
sometimes personal experience comes from universal.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Okay, thank you very much, Venerable Dr. Somaloka, for with compassion to come over here. And as you said, though you do not like to speak on screen, but I think because your compassion did not permit to keep that anymore, and you broke it and reached us, and we appreciate it very much. And United Sangha Council, on behalf of United Sangha Council, I thank you very much. And Venerable Rahula also, and Venerable Sutudara, Venerable Kamarthiri, Venerable Keshe, and Venerable Anila, and Venerable Swan, and all the participants, though I do not mention their names, Venerable Saranapada, and Ms. Engler, and yes, all those. I thank you, and Ms. Janet, and also it's fortunate traveler, yeah, everyone. I appreciate your participation, and remember, please, next month, December, Monday, 5th Monday, we are gathering again for this kind of discussion on meditation. And Venerable, I think Lobsang Geshe would share the merits with departed ones and deities. If he's here still. Oh, okay. I think since time is over, I would make it very short. So by the power of all the merits that we acquired today by discussing and listening to Dhamma and practicing meditation, may all our departed ones rejoice on these merits, and may they all attain enlightenment. May all the deities who protect the world and Sasana rejoice on these merits, and may they all attain the enlightenment. May all our relatives, friends, and all the humankind, all the worldlings, all the universal beings attain the ultimate bliss, ultimate peace of Nibbana. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante Sudhara, for inviting me, and all of you for listening to me and not, yeah. Okay, thanks very much.
Venerable Somaloka, I would be very interested in having a conversation with you if I have the contacts.
Hopefully. What to say?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.